there are some huge problems with Ashland, Oregon, and you definitely need to avoid moving there at all costs unless you can handle these 10 things, which I'm going to share with you on this video right here. And one of them is actually very, very important because it has to do with the water. Okay, and everybody that lives in Ashland, Oregon knows about this issue, and I'm going to share that with you right at the very end here. So stick around and let's go ahead and dive right on in to the first thing that you absolutely have to know about if you're considering moving to Ashland, Oregon. Number one is the hippies. Okay, so a lot of people talk about how Ashland is just full of hippies, and it's not really entirely true. I mean, there are some hippies there, but you're not going to get, a lot of crazy people running around. Not that hippies are crazy by any means, but you're going to see some hippies kind of in the park every now and then, and like a little circle playing a drum, and there's some dreadlocks, on the streets. People walking around with dreadlocks, those kinds of things. I don't know why that would ever be a problem. But if you do poll people, and this isn't just my own opinion, right? If you poll people in Southern Oregon, you ask what are the worst parts about Ashland, they're going to say, some of them are going to say the hippies. So I would be remiss if I didn't include that on this list, and I wanted to just get it out of the way. But personally, I don't have any problem with the hippies. I think they're awesome. To each their own. Everybody's just peace and love and all that stuff, and nothing wrong with that in my mind. So number two on the list that you have to know about, and you need to just avoid Ashland altogether if you can't handle this type of stuff. But the City Council of Ashland is very aggressive, and I would say kind of doing a little bit of overreach. And that's something to definitely be aware of. And so, for example, they have tried to really push like their personal views on the entire city. And so rather than telling people, hey, if you don't want natural gas, if you think electricity is a more efficient, more environmentally friendly, fuel, you should use electricity instead of natural gas. Instead of that, they're saying no natural gas at all for new construction, and that's what they're trying to push. And so I think that that's a little bit aggressive for a city to take a stance like that and set something that's a limit for the all of the residents of the city are not allowed to use it, right? Like, I don't think that that's right? So they've also done similar things with, fire scores, saying that you can't sell your house unless you have your home scored for fire danger or environmental sustainability and efficiency and those sorts of things. And so anyways, not all of those things have gone through and passed and are in place, but they have definitely tried on those things. And I think that's just something to be aware of, is that the city of Ashland itself is very aggressive in trying to push their own views on all of the people of Ashland. Some of the people of Ashland, of course, agree with them, and that's fine. But I know that there's a lot also that don't agree with them jamming, their agenda down everybody else's throat. And so that's something to be aware of if you're considering moving to Ashland. Number three is the location. Okay, so beautiful location, right? Nothing wrong with the location, but what you need to be aware of is that it's actually pretty isolated. So from the rest of Southern Oregon. So 13 miles from Medford. So if you want to get to Costco, for example, you're looking at probably 15 minutes, 20 minutes to the airport, 15 minutes to the hospital in Medford. There is a hospital in Ashland, but the one in Medford is a bigger hospital. And a lot of the doctor's offices and stuff are there. There's also, again, plenty of those things in Ashland itself. But, the main medical hub of Southern Oregon is in East Medford, and that's probably about 15-20 minutes away. So a little bit of a haul if you're wanting to get to any of those places. And in terms of the location, Ashland is super close to California, like 10 miles. And so that's, not a great thing, I don't think. That was a joke, obviously. Hopefully that made sense. But the last thing about the location is that the elevation is higher slightly than the rest of Southern Oregon. So you're coming out of the mountains. If you were to follow Interstate 5, it comes up over the pass, comes down. The first town you hit is Ashland. And so it's a little bit higher elevation than the rest of Southern Oregon. And as a result of that, you end up with a couple degrees cooler on the hotter days, and then also a couple degrees cooler on the colder days, right? So if you're at a little higher elevation and we're in the middle of winter, you might get a little bit more snow in Ashland, but still not significant. Number four is the cost, right? So Ashland is just expensive, especially compared to the rest of Southern Oregon, all right? The rest of Southern Oregon is very affordable relative to, where most people are moving here from, California, Bay Area, Southern California, all that. Very, very affordable. And Ashland will look very affordable to you folks that are moving here from out of the state. But if you're from Southern Oregon, you live in Medford or Grants Pass, and looking at Ashland, it's definitely more expensive than any other part of Southern Oregon. Maybe Jacksonville's close, but it's going to be more pricey in Ashland 9 out of 10 times. So property taxes are a bit higher there, and there's just some other additional taxes like a food tax, fast food tax, and different things like that that are geared towards making, you know, some additional revenue based off of the tourism that we see in Ashland. And so that actually brings me to the fifth thing that you need to be aware of, which is the tourism. Okay, we do get a fair amount of tourism in Ashland due to things like the college, right? There's people that come in to watch football games or sports or whatever. There's also more so the Oregon Shakespeare Festival that brings in a lot of people. The various other arts, same with the Ashland Independent Film Festival. So those types of events bring in a lot of people, and people just want to come enjoy the beauty of Southern Oregon, and Ashland's a great place to do that. So coming here to see the wine country and all that, a lot of people tend to stay in Ashland and use that as their kind of jumping off point to go to, you know, tour all these really beautiful vineyards that we have around Southern Oregon. And they stay in Ashland because the food's better, because there's nice hotels, and there's a lot of fun things to do. So tourism is definitely something you need to be aware of if you're considering moving to Ashland, Oregon, because it's definitely there and it's pretty consistent year round. Number 6 is that people can kind of tend to be a little uppity, a little snobby. Not really a lot of that going on, but it can, you know, the Ashlanders can, some of them, and this is probably true for any other area too. So I'm not trying to pick on Ashland here, but it's, you know, when you get into the more elite neighborhoods, you have a lot of people who, you know, are wealthier and stuff like that, and they tend to come across a certain way sometimes. And so trying to be very careful about this, not generalize everybody, but there's definitely, you know, I know I've had some experiences myself out there where people have kind of like stuck their nose up at other people and stuff like that. So anyways, not something that I would be worried about per se, but when you get into, you know, maybe think about wherever you're living, if you go into the very, you know, highest end neighborhoods or around you, what are the people like there, right? Are there any people that kind of are a little uppity, a little snobby? Probably more so than some of the other, you know, more average areas of the town, right? So I don't think this is any different than any other area. It's the same when you get into the higher end neighborhoods, really anywhere from what I've seen. So not really a big deal there, but just something to be aware of that goes along with the expense and all those sorts of things. Number 7 is that Ashland is a college town. That's right, home to Southern Oregon University, which is a beautiful campus. The Raiders, they are a NAIA school. There's a lot of sports that they have there, and a lot of really good programs at the college, everything from nursing to, you know, all sorts of different arts to criminal justice to computer science, business, all sorts of great stuff there. So obviously with that college in the town, you're going to have a lot of college students. And again, not a bad thing, but definitely something that you need to be aware of before you move to Ashland, Oregon, is you need to know that it's a college town, okay? And so being a college town, it comes with, you know, certain things. You're gonna have a lot of younger people out running around, making bad decisions like everybody does in college. But you just need to be aware is that there is a college in Ashland and there are college students in Ashland, and it's definitely a college town, and for better or worse. And I think it's a good thing because it brings a lot of culture to the area. But however you want to view that, if you're looking for something that's like a really like quiet area or something like that, you maybe would want to steer towards a part of town that away from the college, right? Something to just be aware of. Number 8 is the traffic and the parking. Okay, I'm gonna lump those together, and it's really more about the parking than it is the traffic. Okay, so if you're trying to get downtown, you're trying to go to the plaza, go out to dinner on a date night, you need to really think about your parking situation, and maybe just pick up an Uber if you live in town instead, or walk if you're within walking distance, whatever the case is. But it's definitely an issue trying to park in downtown Ashland, especially on a busy night, a Friday night, a Saturday night. You can definitely be parking a ways away and having to walk. So something you need to be aware of is that, and especially on days where it's, you know, the Oregon Shakespeare Festival is going, if there's a play there or some other big event, it can be really difficult to find parking in the downtown area. So something you need to keep in mind, but the traffic really not that big of an issue. You do have kind of the main drag through Ashland Main Street, and that does get fairly busy from time to time, especially when, you know, you have a lot of tourists and people out walking and stuff. There's, you know, a lot of kind of stopping and letting people cross and those sorts of things. So it just does take a little bit more time to get through Ashland relative to, you know, or in comparison to the other cities of Southern Oregon. But this all, you know, kind of goes with the territory of having a lot of people walking around, a lot of tourism, and a lot of, you know, fun things to see in town. Like that's what brings the people out, right? So just to be aware of, parking is definitely difficult. Traffic is not really that big of an issue. The people from California are watching this are probably like laughing, thinking traffic in Southern Oregon. We don't really have any, honestly, but it does get a little congested. So that's our version of traffic, is what you see when you drive through downtown Ashland. So there you go. Number 9 is that Ashland is pretty hilly. Okay, hilly meaning like there's hills and stuff like that all over, and it's kind of built on a hillside. So that's great for views, because you can be up on the hillside with a beautiful view of the mountains on the other side of the valley. It's great for that, but it's something you just need to be aware of if you're looking for a nice piece of flat ground to have a garden, or to, whatever, you teach your kid to ride a bike. There's parts of town that are nice and flat, and there's parts of town that go all the way up the hillside, and that's where you get those views and everything. So just something to keep in mind is that really anything kind of up, which I guess would be to the west of Main Street, that's going to be pretty much up on the hills. To the east, in between Main Street and I-5, most of that's going to be pretty flat. So if you're looking on a map, or you're looking at any of those websites where you can search for homes, mine's a pretty good one, buyingsouthernoregon.com. You can check out all the different listings on that. Anyways, those are the areas that you'd want to take a look at if you're looking for either flat ground, or if you're looking for a nice view property. Now, number 10, this is the one that I was telling you about at the very beginning. This is a huge one because it has to do with the water, okay? And water is obviously critical. You have to have water. If you don't drink water, you're gonna die. I've heard, I don't know, I'm not a doctor. Anyways, the water in Ashland is terrible, okay? And what I mean by that is I'm talking about the Lithia water downtown, all right? The water that comes from the city itself is fine, as far as I know, okay? The public water, public utility, not talking about that at all. I'm talking about Lithia water, okay? If you go downtown to the plaza, what you're gonna see is a fountain there, and it's called the Lithia water. It's mineral water that comes out of the ground, and it's disgusting, okay? It's funny though, because it's kind of like a rite of passage. If you come to Ashland, you gotta try it. And there's people that you'll see there filling up their water bottles and taking that stuff home because it allegedly has lots of health benefits and that kind of stuff. I mean, I'd rather be sick, honestly, because if you drink it, you're gonna feel sick because it's disgusting. So that is the thing I wanna make sure you are aware of, is that you gotta know that that stuff is there. If you're thinking of moving to Ashland, Oregon, you gotta go try it. You have to experience it so that you can have your own input on whether you think it's gross or not, and whether maybe you've already tried it. If you have, drop a comment in the comment section and tell me what you thought. Did it cure your illness? Did it taste great? Did it taste gross? What did you think? I'd be very curious to find out. So I'm Brian Simmons with the Buying Southern Oregon real estate team at eXp Realty, and I would love to help you. If there's anything I can do to help you learn, buy, or list real estate here in Southern Oregon, don't hesitate to reach out. My number is right here on the screen. And if you want to do a little bit more research on Southern Oregon, whether it be in Ashland, Medford, Grants Pass, or anywhere in between, this video or right over here, maybe it's over here, whichever way it is, that is the one you're gonna wanna check out next, because it's gonna give you all sorts of great information. And feel free to surf the channel. There's a lot of really phenomenal videos right here on the Buying Southern Oregon YouTube channel. So thank you for watching, and I hope to hear from you soon.